Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast of the Strabo Method, an holistic approach to optimal health and wellness. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Drew Derby. Here's some info on Drew for those of you that don't know him. Drew has been involved in the fitness industry since he was about 16, coaching boot camp classes. Currently a stress-reduced fat loss expert at Be Elite, he also owns his own business, World Class Training. He has studied at Durham College for 2 years in the area of health and fitness promotion. He has also completed his nutritional medicine profile certification with ICANS taught by Dr. Eric Serrano and Leon Lacey, and is certified in precision nutrition as well. He is currently in school at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition for their holistic nutrition course, and to top off his very busy schedule, he's also an amateur Muay Thai competitor. Drew, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us once again for today's interview. Excited to have you on board.
Thanks again for inviting me back, and thank you for having me tonight.
Well,
Excited
certainly.
to discuss.
Well, the last interview went really well with our audience, so I figure, let's get you on again. And this time of year, we're looking at, say, the whole holiday season, and people, want to stay on top of their program, but enjoying themselves. So looking forward to all the great tips that you have along those lines.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I find the holidays can be a stressful time of the year for some people when they're trying to lose fat.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first thing I want to start off with is don't go into the season with saying, fuck it.
Yeah.
I find a lot of people think, well, I'm going to be having parties. There's going to be work occasions where we're having foods that won't necessarily fit in my nutrition plan, etc. And they're thinking, with all of this, how am I gonna survive the holidays and actually succeed with continuing in my fat loss,
Yeah.
maintaining, progressing? Well, the first step of that is not saying fuck it.
That's right.
Right? You want to be aware that you're the one in control. You want to take responsibility for your actions and don't play the victim card.
Yeah. Very
I
good
think
points. Yeah. Because some people will
yeah,
just write off the whole season. And on a personal note, like I tend to start celebrating the whole holiday season beginning of December, and it doesn't end until mid-January. So the reason why I'm saying that is I don't have, say, one big group of friends and family where we all get together and it's like 1 or 2 days of just chowing down. It's a lot of smaller subgroups. So it's not to say that the people won't get along with one another,
yeah,
but it's not always easy trying to fit everybody in. So what I like what you're saying. It's like, don't take the approach of saying fuck it. Certainly stay on top of the whole training side of it. And I'd love
yeah.
to get your feedback as far as nutrition and what we can do to maintain or perhaps even improve along the holidays.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. So before I get into the nutrition part of things, one thing that I wanted to go off of what you were saying on how you have lots of different subgroups, so you kind of go for a longer celebratory period.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's great. The fact that you are going and celebrating for a long period is great. Love it. But when you're doing that, it's important to not let loose for that entire period, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's fine to let loose a few times a year. There's nothing wrong with that. And actually, I encourage my clients too, so that way they don't feel like they're locked in a box of being perfect,
Yeah.
right? You want to have a little bit of wiggle room. But
Correct.
if you're coming to every season and for that entire season of festivities, you're just letting loose, that's where you're going to have a problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I just wanted to put that little tidbit in before we got into the nutrition side of things.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great point. It's like what I've done. It just if I know I'm going to be going out with friends on a particular day, it's like, okay, enjoy that meal on that day, but everything where I'm not socialized with others, just eat super clean and as strict as possible. So it's probably going to be lower calories overall on those cleaner days. So when I'm being a little bit of a slob, it balances out in the long run.
Yes, yes, exactly. And then another little tidbit that I liked, I actually read this from a Precision Nutrition article, and it was focus on when you are going to festive occasions, focus on spending the time that on the people that you're celebrating with rather than the food,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Good
I
point.
when I read that, I was like, That's a very good point. So I just wanted to share that again
Yeah.
before we go into the nutrition side of things.
Hmm. So if you can expand on that a little bit, that'd be fantastic. So what do you mean by
Yeah.
like you'll celebrate more of the people rather than the food side of it?
So I mean, focus more on the people that you're celebrating with rather than the food. Because I know one of the things that comes with celebration is always food. What kind of food's at the celebration, right? I know for me, even still, I still have that problem of if I'm going to a certain, say, Christmas dinner, I'm thinking, dessert. Like
Hmm.
instantly, uh, shitty foods are attached to that kind of thought, right?
Yeah,
So I'm even in the moment of trying to break that and think, well, I'm celebrating my loved ones versus don't think dessert,
that's right. Yeah, I hear
right?
you. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because the thing is, when we're eating, say, the main course, for the most part, they tend to be healthier. But dessert, the first thing that comes to my mind, like what you're saying, are just crappy forbidden foods. It's like you'll just go nuts on it and enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah. But to get into some of the nutrition side of things, I
Mhm.
find one thing that is quite common when it comes to these kind of events where you're eating large meals is anticipating for that large meal. A lot of people will skip meals.
Mhm.
So if I know I'm going to eat a big dinner, what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip my lunch to make up for eating that big dinner.
Yeah.
And if that's the strategy that you're using is kind of like a time restricted feeding, great. But if you're purposely just skipping a meal that day so you can eat a bigger meal, if your goal is fat loss, that may not exactly be the best thing for you.
Mhm.
Because when you go and you skip the meal, well, one, your blood sugar is going to drop, which is going to put
Correct.
you in a state where you're going to crave sweets. You're going to crave
That's
a
right.
sweet treat and you're going to be hangry.
Yeah.
On top of that, that's going to slow your metabolism down. And if
Mhm.
fat loss is your goal, do you really want your metabolism slowing down when you're going to be eating a big meal?
Very good points. That's right. Yeah.
So for all those people that tend to skip meals anticipating for a big meal, it may not be the best idea, especially if you're one who tends to overeat. Maybe getting that lunch in may be
Mhm.
helpful to not cause you to overeat at that dinner,
Mhm. Very
right?
good
And your
points.
body
Yeah.
will react to it better. There's
Mhm.
something out there called the second meal effect, which states the contents of your first meal will help dictate how your body responds to the second meal, as in the blood sugar response.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Right? So if I'm eating a lower glycemic meal for, say, breakfast and lunch, my body's going to respond much better to the higher glycemic meal that I eat come dinner, say
Interesting.
at a Christmas dinner. So if I'm having a celebration night where I'm going to be eating a higher carb content than
Mhm.
normal,
Yeah.
a simple way to prepare for that is have my lunch and my breakfast be a lower glycemic meal. What's a lower glycemic meal? Well, that's staying away from mostly your starchy carbs. So your potatoes, your sweet potatoes,
Mhm.
your rice, right? Sticking to more of a higher protein, higher fat meal. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you want to include your veggies in there.
Definitely. Very good points. I'm loving that. Yeah. I have heard about that particular theory. And I think that's something that Dr. Serrano mentioned ages ago at
Yeah.
one of his symposiums. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
when I first heard that, I was blown away. And then afterwards, he sent the paper on it, and I was reading the paper. I was blown away again. It's, our body is really amazing.
Hmm.
It's awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Well, and what I love about that approach, because the thing is, it is damage control, and sometimes people will write off the day because they started off on a bad note.
Yes.
So it's like,
And
okay, well, and like you'll say you just did have like a bad breakfast for whatever reason. Maybe you're in a rush, you didn't get a chance to prepare something. Okay, shit happens. So it's like you'll make the next meal that much better and get back on track with things rather than it's like, well, one bad meal turns into a bad day, turns into a bad week, and before you know it's a shitty month. It's like, well, I'll start off next month. Oh, the next month doesn't
yeah,
start on a Monday; it starts on a
yeah,
Wednesday, and there's
yeah.
always reasons not to do something.
Exactly. But that's going right back to the fuck it attitude, right?
Yeah.
I had the bad breakfast, so fuck it. I'm going to have a bad day. But with eating the bad breakfast, I like to go back to your breakfast is really the most important meal of your day.
Hmm.
It's going to help set up your focus, right?
Yeah.
And help if you eat the good breakfast, I guarantee you, you're going to make better decisions during the day, especially with food.
Okay. So, like, before you get your clients on the straight and narrow, what have you seen as, say, a typical unhealthy breakfast? And then what do you generally recommend? Like, I know that everybody's a little bit different as
Yeah,
far as your recommendations, but I'm sure there's like a lot of common ground as far as just people eating just the same crap first thing in the morning.
for sure. So what I see a lot in the clients that I work with is a lot of eggs, bacon, breakfast sandwiches. Okay, bagels, um, also cereal the odd time. Okay,
Yeah.
cereal fairly common. And now if you look at that, what is that? That's you got a little bit of protein in the eggs. A lot of people when they I have nothing against eggs if your body handles them, but
Hmm.
when people are eating eggs, they aren't eating enough. They're eating two, maybe three. And when I say I eat like five or six, they're like, whoa, that's a lot of eggs. Well, look at the protein content in the eggs.
Yeah.
What are your goals, right? So I see a lot of eggs and bagels and cereals. And the thing is when you look at a food log from a client, if you get them to log their food before they come in, you see it's very repetitive.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the time, these people are going to be sensitive to what they're eating for breakfast. They've created these food sensitivities by constantly eating the same things over and over.
Correct. Yeah. And that's something we covered in our previous interview, just a
Yeah,
matter of having a lot of variety. So it's not the
exactly.
eggs per se, it's just overdoing the eggs and not getting
Exactly.
enough of the other things, perhaps a slightly different amino acid profile and certain vitamins and minerals in it as well.
Exactly. But if you look at the contents of those kinds of breakfasts, a lot of the time it's higher carb,
Hmm.
right? And you don't want to start your day off with a nice spike in your blood sugar. So what I always like to say is a great breakfast is the meat and nuts breakfast, which is something that Paul Quinn is an advocate of,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. And I
And
have been experimenting with that. And it's interesting that you brought that up because a lot of times people say, well, George, what do you have for breakfast? And I just talk about, say, maybe half a can of fish and a nut butter or something. Like it's not the same thing as having the nuts themselves, but sometimes I'm lazy and it's just like, okay, I'll just grab
oh yeah,
a tablespoon of the nut butter.
I do the same thing. It's great.
Yeah. And they say, it's like, how do you feel on that? I go, you know what? It's enough gas in the tank that I can actually get through a pretty intense workout for about an hour and change.
Yeah,
It's like,
I
you're cool with that. It's like, yeah, because just, I don't, the mental focus is certainly there. And I find it's light enough on my stomach that I can get through a challenging workout rather than something that might be a little bit heavier. And if I push myself too much, especially in some of the bigger movements, I'm just feeling nauseous. So that's kind of like, it's a nice balance between enough energy, but nothing too heavy where you just feel like crap the whole time.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And I've actually had every single one of my clients that have switched over to a meat and nuts breakfast come back and say, I feel good. I feel full, but I feel light in the morning, and I
Yeah.
can focus. Like I've noticed my mental focus is improved. Like I'm not all over this place in the morning now. I can get my single focus down. And if
Hmm.
they didn't notice that themselves, they've had others come up to them and be like, "What's going on with you today? You're here."
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a
And
great
so
point because, like, sometimes, like, just, and some people are more sensitive to carbs than others. It just,
yeah,
I find too much, and my thinking is foggy. I'm not as sharp or quick on things. It's
yeah.
almost like a drunk feeling in a sense.
Yeah, no, and carbs can have that effect for sure. Now, I also don't think that carbs are bad because carbs aren't bad. It just depends on how your body handles them.
I love that
Um,
approach. Yeah.
yeah, no, for
So this
sure.
way you're
Like
not
for somebody
excluding
like
anything.
myself, I like it's not that I need carbs. I could go no carb, but my body handles carbs well. So I indulge in the carbs. I eat them when I can, right?
Yeah. And know yourself. That's a big thing. It's just like, some people are just into the whole no carb approach. If it works for you, fine.
Exactly.
But sometimes you have to experiment a little bit, and that's something that you and your colleagues do at Be Elite, and just say, you know what? It's like, how carb tolerant or intolerant are you? And I think it goes back to some of the stuff that Serrano and Polk were speaking about, just earn your carbs.
Exactly. And that goes to another one of my tips was earn your carbs. If you're going to be having a high carb day at a celebration, earn your carbs. Go and do a nice high metabolic workout. Go lift heavy shit. Go do some
Yeah.
sprints. This will prime your body so you're not having uh, so your body's not releasing fat storing hormones.
Hmm.
So if fat loss is your goal, if you're planning on eating high carbs, go lift some heavy shit. Go do
Yeah,
some sprints. This is going to put your body in a better state to handle what you're taking in.
very nice. And it's great what you're saying about, not starting off the day with the carbs because I've tried that on a few occasions, and some people think, okay, the carbs is a great source of energy. I find it helps you as far as say a post-workout type of thing with regards to recovery and also getting a good night's sleep. But first thing in the morning, buddy, it just forget it. I'm just dragging my ass. It's
Yeah.
pretty rough.
Anytime now that I have carbs in the morning, since switching over to the meat and nuts breakfast, I have more coffee that day for sure.
Yeah. And there's a time and place for coffee, but you don't want to be overly reliant on it because of the overindulgence of the carbs, because then you're stressing out you're going to do a number on your adrenals as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So circling back to the tips for the holiday survival of fat loss. A lot of the times we eat large meals.
Yeah.
So if we're going to be consuming large meals, one of my tips is to supplement with some digestive enzymes. Okay, because if
Okay.
you're eating a large meal, that's going to put stress on your digestive system as if you're not used to eating large meals.
Hmm.
On top of that, we're usually eating processed and refined foods with the meal or after the
Correct.
meal for dessert, which again is going to put more stress on our digestive system.
Hmm.
So this is a great time to supplement with some digestive enzymes to give your system that extra little boost.
Okay. And for those that aren't familiar with, the enzymes that are needed to break down certain foods, if you can give us kind of like a crash course as far as like what enzymes will help out with protein and fat and carbs and
Yeah,
things like that.
sure. So you can go with just the basic plant enzyme. Now has a great plant enzyme. Okay, and it just has the things that you need, the bases to break down your protein, your fats, and your carbs. Okay, but then you could also go with something like the super enzyme by now, which
Hmm.
also has a little bit of hydrochloric acid and a little bit of ox bile in there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think ox bile is important for those that had their gallbladder removed, is it not?
Ox bile is essential for those that have their ox bile removed.
Yeah, that's
Anybody
wild.
that has their gallbladder removed, you need to be supplementing with a ox bile digestive enzyme for sure.
Loving it. Yeah, and I have tried the Now products, and we're not pushing a particular brand. There's lots of great companies out there. It's actually got me out of a jam on a few occasions where I'm having lunch with a loved one. I remember one time going out with mom and some of her friends and things like that, and I don't know what was going on with my stomach that day, but felt like I was going to be puking. That was that bad. So fortunately, I grabbed some enzymes, and not only did I get through the meal, I enjoyed the meal. So I
That's
did a
awesome.
complete 180. So, and that's a tip that I picked up from an acquaintance of mine. She basically said, it's like, okay, take the enzymes. Worst case scenario, it's not going to do anything bad to you. Best case,
Yeah.
you're going to feel better. Because with some supplements out there, it just, if it's not what you're needing at that moment, you could
Hmm.
actually be causing more harm than good.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Loving it. Yeah. Well, I think it's a great thing to do, especially since people are on the run a lot. And, for the most part, you are recommending healthier meals and more of a balanced approach there. So it's like you obviously get, some raw veggies in there as far as the whole digestive process, but sometimes they're just not handy for whatever reason.
Yeah. No, for sure. And a lot of the time, I find in our Western culture, we eat the same foods over and over again repetitively. And what that's going to do is that's going to make that could lead us to being deficient in those enzymes that we need to digest those foods.
Hmm.
So I find a lot of people are enzyme deficient. So supplementing with enzymes is always a great idea, especially if you find that you are having digestive problems or signs and symptoms of any kind of digestive dysfunction, really.
Very cool. And I wonder if like if you have any other tips as far as like not just say the supplement side of it, but maybe particular foods to incorporate to help out as far as the whole digestive side and just looking at damage control overall.
Sure. So um, damage control, avoid allergens.
Yeah.
Okay. Your most common allergens are going to be your wheat, your gluten, your dairy, your soy, your corn. Um, Eggs is very common as well. Okay.
Yeah,
If you're avoiding your allergens, these are going to be the things that are going to inflame your system.
that's
Okay.
right.
So I always advise to avoid these. And I know you're thinking, well, what the hell am I going to eat for dessert now? what I always suggest for clients, bring your own. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with bringing your own allergen-free dessert. If you don't want to make it, you can buy them.
Oh yeah.
Surprisingly enough, quite a few paleo bakeries around. There's a couple local ones that I've been to. I've grabbed a couple of things when it was my mom's birthday and absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Tasted great. I mean, hey, it's going to be filled with sugar, but you're at least avoiding your allergens.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
again, you've previously done your damage control with your you've already earned your carbs. You've gone and you've lifted your heavy shit or did some sprints, right?
Hmm.
Our previous two meals were high protein, high fat, and we're lower carbs. So we've done our damage control to take in the sugar. Now
That's
we're
right.
just making sure it's allergen-free desserts and that it's just the higher sugar content that we're taking it. If you're
Uh-huh.
deciding to go that route.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, people think high sugar is bad, but not necessarily so. Like, because there's certainly good and bad forms of the sugar that are out there.
Well, yes, and like sugar just isn't good for us, period. Like the only reason that sugar's still around is because it makes so much money.
Yeah.
If you're getting like like sugar from honey or maple syrup, okay, it's from the natural form. It's not as
Exactly. And
detrimental
that's what I
to the
meant there.
body.
Yeah.
Refined and processed sugar is like a poison.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you definitely want to stay away from the white stuff. So, like, white sugar, white salt, and white flour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But,
for
like, I
sure.
like what you're saying there as far as saying the maple syrup or the honey. It is more of a natural sweetener. And
Hmm.
I find that it just doesn't have the same effect on my blood sugar levels for some reason.
Yeah. Well, it's natural. It's not refined, right?
Yeah.
It has other things that, like, for take honey for example. There's nothing in nature that is just purely carbohydrate like refined sugar is.
Hmm.
Honey has other things with it. It has some minerals with it, right? So there's other things to it. It's not
Correct.
just pure carbs.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Because,
Um,
with the pure sugar, it just everything's been stripped from it. And all you left is
yeah,
with the bad stuff.
and that's where the spikes in the insulin come, right? The spikes in the blood sugar, which is detrimental if you're wanting to lose fat.
That's right. Yeah.
Um, Going back to what kind of foods for the holiday survival. Um, when you got your plate, your plate, and you're going and you're putting your meal on your plate.
Hmm.
Prioritize your food choices. So first, you always see people go usually to either A, the meats, which is
Hmm.
great, or B, the carbs. So
Yeah.
what I say is go to the carbs first, but your healthy carbs, your veggies.
Okay.
Okay, fill your plate up with your veggies first, and you want to fill up your plate with half of veggies. This
Yeah.
way, there's only so much room for other things.
Makes
Then you
sense.
go to your proteins. You
Yeah.
want to prioritize your proteins. Put whatever portion is going to be good for you.
Hmm.
Okay, I suggest about 1 to 2 fists
Yeah.
for a female, and then 2 to 3 fists for a male worth of
Gotcha.
protein. Okay? It just
Yeah.
depends. And then it also depends on your goal. It can get very individualized. That's just a very general recommendation. And
Hmm.
then go for your fats, and lastly, your carbs.
Gotcha. Yeah.
If you
Like the starchy ones.
prioritize your food choices that way, you're not going to be left with a whole lot of room for the starchy carbs that may impede your fat loss.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I think that's something that Paul spoke about ages ago. It's like you really can't overdo the green veggies.
No, you can't. Who has ever gotten fat off of eating vegetables? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. Who's ever gotten fat off of eating only meat? Like, look at the people on the carnivore diet. Do they look fat? Every single person I've seen on the carnivore diet looks absolutely ripped,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
You don't get fat off of eating meat and vegetables. It just doesn't happen.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So much for the vegans that are out there that are like, trying to push that onto the whole world. And, all the power to you if that works. And that's something I've had a chat with Bart, who's, one of your colleagues, and just some vegans are skinny fat.
Oh, the majority of them are because all they eat is carbs, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of them are prioritizing the wrong carbs. And on top of that, a lot of them are buying into the shitty vegan marketing that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Anything that isn't meat is technically anything that isn't from an animal is technically vegan.
Hmm.
There's lots of products that are out there that aren't from an animal that don't have the vegan name on it,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't see Sour Patch Kids like vegan.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, they might have gelatin in it, which is from an animal, but there's ways that you can make vegan gelatin,
Uh-huh.
right? They're
Exactly.
just slapping the vegan on it so that way they can sell them shit. It's the
That's
same
right.
shit that we're eating. It's just more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, just crazy some of the marketing ploys that are out there, really.
Yeah, and a lot of the times like I have a colleague, not a colleague, sorry, an acquaintance that she was a vegan previously, and while she was vegan for the year, she told me she full out just ate a lot of shitty carbs. It
Yeah.
wasn't even like a lot. Like, yeah, she ate a lot of veggies, but it wasn't like a 90-10 split or an 80-20 split. It was like a 60-40 split,
Wow. Yeah, not
right?
healthy at all, man.
No, no. And on top of that, a lot of these vegans are under eating because they're not eating the amount that they would need to get the kind of calories they want.
That's right. Yeah. And one of the things I've tried the whole vegan approach years ago as a teen, and I was reading about the whole food combining and things like that, and just constantly tired, constantly hungry, especially as a teen. It just, you need a lot more
Yeah,
calories just to get through the day. And no
for
matter how
sure.
much I was eating, it just not feeling well at all. Um, and I just
Yeah.
find personally, I do a lot better on the whole meat side of it. But I'm loving that point that you're saying as far as prioritizing it. So start off with the veggies and get into the meats and the healthier fats. So as far as say the healthier fats, what kind of suggestions do you have with that?
So the fats, I always love avocados are great. Okay, you got your nuts, your seeds, your nut butters. Okay, stay away from the peanut butter. That's not a nut.
That's right.
Then you have
So
your
what
oils.
what is tea and peanut butter then? Like how'd you classify it?
It's a legume.
Yeah.
It's a legume. That's what it is. I don't know whoever coined the term peanut. I
Yeah.
have no idea, but it was probably just a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
I have no idea where that came from though. And then also you have your oils. So stay away from your vegetable oil. Okay,
Hmm.
that did not come from vegetables.
No.
We'll leave it at that. You want to go with like your extra virgin olive oil, your avocado oils, okay, your coconut oils. If you're buying coconut oil, stay away from the ones that are in a clear jar.
Okay.
Clear
Yeah.
jars are no good, oxidated.
Yeah, because you don't want the light and the heat getting to it.
Exactly. Dark jars, dark jars. Okay, so your good extra virgin olive oils. Those are all great quality fats.
Hmm.
And then if you're a butter person, grass fed butter,
Yeah.
ghee, that kind of stuff. All great quality fats.
Exactly. Yeah. Certainly great points out there, no doubt about it. And the funny thing is, a lot of people think that eating fat will cause so fat. And it's like, no, it's
You
just,
need to eat fat to lose fat.
yeah.
If you look at our the way our eating styles have changed over the years, the second they took fat out of the majority of the foods that we were eating in the 70s,
Mm.
we got fat.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was when the whole fat epidemic began.
That's right. Because a lot of people are saying like, the whole saturated fats is causing problems with heart disease and things like that. It's more of the processed carbs than anything.
Yeah, no, because once they took the fat out, all the food tasted like garbage. So what they do? They pumped in sugar to make it taste sweet.
Exactly. Yeah. And what are we
And
looking
so
at? We're looking at a high glycemic index.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, circling back to the survival tips for the holiday for fat loss, I find when we're at a social event and we're eating, a lot of us eat quickly.
Hmm.
Again, that's going to be putting a stress on your digestive system. Okay, so you want to take your time, eat slowly, and eat till you're satisfied. Okay,
Yeah.
the studies out there show that we don't even get the signals sent to our brain saying that we're full until about 15 to 20 minutes into our meal.
I've heard about that.
So
Yeah.
if I've scarfed down my meal in 10 minutes, my body hasn't sent that signal yet saying we're full, stop eating, but my
Yeah.
meal's done.
That's it. Yeah. And we're still eating and we could have been satisfied a
And
lot
then
earlier.
you get hit with it and you're like, whoa, okay, I need to go lay down.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? You get hit with the itis.
Hmm.
So take your time. And I'm pretty sure I brought this up on our last interview, the 5, 10, 15.
If you can
Five,
revisit that, that'd be great. Yeah.
yeah. So it's 5 deep belly breaths before you go and eat your food. A lot of the times we're in a fight, flight, or freeze state. So the 5 deep belly breaths helps take us out of fight or flight and puts us into rest and digest. 10 is every bite I take. So I take my bite. I'm going to put my knife and fork down and I'm going to chew. A lot of us don't chew enough. So you're going to chew for 10 seconds. And then
Interesting.
finally, you want to sit down and eat your meal for at least 15 minutes.
Yeah. Hmm. I like the whole idea about putting the utensils down in between bites. It's certainly a big part of it because so many times we just keep stuffing our face with the next bite.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm even I do it today. I find if I have handheld food, it goes down even quicker because I
Yeah,
just want to get to the next bite, get to the next bite. One thing that I found really interesting was one of my teachers made us take a raisin and chew it. I think it was like 50 times, and you get tired of chewing the thing, but it's weird because after about 30 chews, the flavor gets more intense.
that's right. Yeah.
That's something you don't expect,
No,
right? So as you chew more and more, the as long as it's good quality food, the taste actually gets better.
correct. Yeah. I did something similar with a grape, I think it was. And the guy
Yeah,
that's presenting it, just talking about it. And like, we got into the whole sensory side of it where like, we're smelling it and just taking like a
yeah,
little bit of a lick and whatever.
yeah,
And it was weird. It's like, because I must have had that grape in my mouth for a good minute or something. And no word
yeah.
of a lie, I felt like having a cigarette afterwards. And I'm thinking, it's like, okay, something's going on here.
Oh
I had
man.
like a food gasm or something.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy. And
You know?
you don't, that's something you would never notice unless you actually took the minute to mindfully chew that grape.
That's right. Yeah. And even what you're saying about the whole, making sure that the meal lasts for 15 minutes, you know, as a society, we're just super rushed and we should
Right.
just pay attention to our European counterparts where, instead of having a half hour or an hour for lunch in many parts of Europe, they'll have a good 2 hours or something. So it extends their
Yeah.
workday. But you figure, okay, I've got 2 hours where I'm with loved ones and I'm socializing that much more and just enjoying the whole process rather than, oh man, I've only got a half hour. I've got my next meeting I got to prepare for, or whatever. And you're just causing a lot of damage in the long run.
For sure. I even see a lot of people that don't even eat a lunch at work. And you know what? The difference there is the priorities,
Correct. Yeah.
right? And we really should prioritize our time for lunch because that's that's what's going to fuel you for the rest of the day. Your day isn't going to be very productive if you can't focus, if you don't have the energy to put in the work.
Hmm.
Where are you getting that focus and energy from? Your food.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. And then this way, there's just less reliance on stimulants and things like that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
My next tip is avoid drinking your calories. A lot of us go to these festivities and we indulge in our drinks. There's nothing wrong with having a few drinks, but if you're wanting to lose fat, be aware that those drinks come with calories.
That's right. Yeah.
So a tip that I always have is if you're planning on drinking, cut down on the carbs. Count
Yeah.
those as carbs now, right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
So
And just ask yourself, where do you want the carbs from? Do you want it from a food or do
e-
you want it from a liquid?
exactly. And then that puts things really into perspective for people. They're like, makes them really think about their decision. And then
That's
on
right.
top of that, when you are drinking, choose drinks that are going to be allergen free so they're not as inflammatory to the system or as damaging.
Okay.
Okay. So my top three picks for you. This came from the great guru Ken, also
Hmm.
from BLE. Wines are great.
Yeah.
Okay. Brandies and rums.
Okay. Well, good because I'm a big fan of rum.
Yeah, no, rum's great.
Uh,
Rum's great. All my women clients love wine, so they're like, okay, great.
yeah. Well, it's good. Another cool thing about that, you don't want people feeling deprived for any reason
Yeah,
whatsoever
no,
either.
for sure. For sure. I don't want anybody feeling deprived ever because then once they feel deprived, the only thing on their mind is that one thing they feel deprived of and they see it everywhere.
Yeah, and then they could just snap and just totally
Okay,
go off the rails.
exactly.
Yeah, and you just
Then
say
on
it's
top,
like, here's your options. What do you want to work with from those options?
yeah, no, for sure. And then on top of that, if you are going to go drink with a 1-to-1 ratio with water. So if you're
Uh-huh.
going to have your glass of wine, great, have your glass of wine. Before you go and have your next, have a glass of water.
Gotcha. Yeah. I wish I had that kind of tip there back in my whole high school days. I would have cut back on some of the hangovers because it's just so dehydrated the next day and it's just not a good feeling
Yeah,
whatsoever. And
yeah,
just like you're saying, it's damage control. So it's like hydrate yourself during the thing there. So not only you're hydrated, but it's like, you're going to be full from the water, and there's going to be less room in your stomach for the alcoholic beverages.
Exactly. And it does take a little bit of time for the alcohol to metabolize. It's not like it goes down and bang, you're hit,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
So taking that time to drink the glass of water may give you that little bit of more of the buzz that you were looking for, that may be like, okay, I don't need to have another glass,
Love that. Yeah, that's an amazing tip.
right?
Very cool.
So,
Well, if we can backtrack a little bit, because you're also saying stay away from the allergens. So as far as beverages, what would be, say, common allergens with the beverages?
so one that I love, whiskey,
Yeah.
right? Whiskey's made from wheat, beer, wheat.
Yeah.
So the allergen drinks is more so with the liquors and the alcoholic beverages, because you don't find a lot of juices made with things like wheat.
That's right. Yeah. Very good point.
Okay, you'll find juices made with corn syrup,
Uh-huh.
which I would want to avoid. Okay,
Exactly.
corn's one of the common allergens. Plus, corn syrup is very damaging to the body.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it for the allergen kind of beverages. It's more so like your common liquors that are made from wheat,
Mm-hmm.
and your beers and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Very cool.
Ciders are usually a pretty good choice as well. Ciders don't usually contain allergens.
Yeah. Lots of great tips there.
Yeah, no,
Love this.
I try to keep my clients prepared, because the holidays is usually a stressful time with everything they have going on. So I want to make sure that they're prepared for these social events and don't have any anxiety and don't feel like
Exactly.
they shouldn't go to the events. I find some clients, when they first start our program, they feel like they can't go out. And I encourage them, go out, navigate through it, experience. You have the tools and resources to be successful. Now go be successful, or
Correct.
fail. So next time you are successful.
Yeah. And just learn
Right?
from things as you go along rather than just totally secluding yourself there. And then when you are in a social situation, you're totally clueless as to what to do.
Exactly. But going back to the point that the holidays are a stressful time for a lot of people, a big thing if your goal is fat loss, manage your stress. Stress management is huge.
Okay.
Huge. What can I do? You can do lots. Okay. Some simple things is journal.
Hmm.
You can buy something like the 5 minute journal.
Yeah.
Okay. You can do yoga, qigong, just stretch, meditate. Go and download a meditating app off the App Store.
Hmm.
Go and get a massage. Go and
Yeah.
get stretched out by an FST therapist, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there's tons that you can do to de-stress. Go and have a hot bath. There's
Hmm.
tons. And people don't do enough of it. We constantly have things that are raising our um, the hyper part of our nervous system, and not
Yes.
enough that are stimulating the hypo part of our nervous system, right?
Yeah. And we certainly need to balance with things, no doubt about it. Like, there's times that we need to be kicking it into gear if it's going to be, a heavy duty weight training session or going out for the sprints and things like that. But we shouldn't always be in overdrive.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
Very
Um,
nice.
Coming back to the holiday tips, if you do go and you go and you feel like you've messed up on something, don't feel like it's the end of the world.
Hmm.
Don't be like, oh, I fucked up. No, take ownership. Okay, cool. You feel like you messed up. Great. Take ownership of it. Get
Yeah.
rid of the guilt. All the guilt's going to do is put you in a fight, flight, or freeze response, which is going to not be good for your fat loss goals. Okay, and just
Exactly.
focus on getting back on track immediately. What can
Uh-huh.
you do right now to get back on track?
Yeah.
And then finally, communicate with your coach. If you
Yeah.
don't have a coach, communicate with your accountability buddy.
Hmm. Well, and that actually brings up two thoughts that I have here. So, with the one thing, as far as, okay, you screwed up on things and it does happen, there's a nutritionist, and he kind of gave the example where you're taking a road trip somewhere and you get a flat tire. So, you're going to go out of your vehicle and slash the other three tires? It just doesn't make sense. But why do we do that with
Exactly.
the food? And it's like, okay, well, I fucked up. And it's like, okay, well, this meal's a write off. And before you know it, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Well, the days are right off, the week, and then before you know it, the month is screwed. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. And then I like the whole idea of the ownership side of it, where there's one guy I've been following, Jocko Willings. He was an ex-Navy SEAL guy, and just talks about, like,
Okay.
just different things that they do as far as, he's leading his troops into battle and doing all these other things, and sometimes things didn't work out the way that expected. It's like, okay, well, I'm taking ownership. What can I do based on
Yeah.
what's in front of me? What's my backup plan? Because say
Yeah.
plan A doesn't work for whatever reason, because you might go somewhere and you're thrown for a loop. It's like, okay, maybe you're a guest at somebody's place and they've got no idea what type of foods that you normally stick with.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you want to be sociable, but at the same time, there's a whole bunch of crap there. What do you do?
Yeah. No, and that brings up a great point, actually. So before I touch on that great point that you brought up, going back to the ownership, I find a lot of people don't do it because it's uncomfortable to take ownership for something that we know we shouldn't have done,
Yeah.
right? And nobody likes to feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But going to that great point that you brought up of having a backup plan, before going to a social event, think of what kind of roadblocks are coming up your way.
Yeah.
There's always going to be roadblocks in your life. There's nothing you can do to stop them from coming, but there's tons of things you can do to overcome them. And one of them is preparing for them.
Yeah.
If I know I'm going to a social event, okay, great. What are some roadblocks that are going to be there? Well,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably going to be some shitty desserts that I'm
Yeah.
going to want to eat. How can I overcome this? I can prepare my own dessert that fits into my nutrition plan and bring that and be social with everybody. I can share it with everybody. I
Love
can
it.
enjoy, right? So that also answers your question of how do I navigate through that if they don't know my food selections?
Yeah.
Bring my food selections and let everybody else enjoy with it.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not just bringing enough for yourself there. You're sharing with others, and maybe you're going to give them a bit of a kick in the pants that they need.
Yeah, no, exactly. I actually had one of my clients last year who did that. She brought her own dessert and she brought her own dish, and everybody loved it. They said, "You got to bring that back next year. Like, we need that next year. That was so good, delicious."
Yeah.
They all loved it.
Amazing. Yeah. It can almost turn into a bit of a potluck type of thing.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone's just dying. I'm just plugging it in the
Oh,
charger.
no worries. Yeah. Well, and I think another thing is sometimes we'll drink a lot of alcohol because we're dealing with idiots out there.
Yes.
So it's like, you can't really shoot the idiots and prevent them from coming to the party. And at the same time, you don't really have to dive into, all the beer and the whiskey around you and things like that.
No, for sure. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Drew, I'm looking at it and you're always a wealth of information, but I'm seeing that our time is going on about the half hour mark or so. So are there any final thoughts that you want to leave with our audience over here?
The final thought is mentally prepare for the social event. So I find a lot of people just go to these social events and they're thinking, yeah, something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. Well, you're preparing for something bad to happen by thinking that.
You're bringing that on
Right?
yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Think through how you want to approach the celebration. Okay. Cutting loose, like I said, cutting loose a few times a year, there's nothing wrong with that. I encourage it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're cutting loose every party, that's going to be a problem. What you need to do is you need to figure out a way to celebrate that leaves you guilt free.
Yeah.
Right. And that's going to be different for everybody. That's where it comes to trial and error, navigating through different celebrations and events and figuring out how you can celebrate and leave guilt free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it comes back to what you're saying about discussing things with your coach. And chances are, if you have a particular challenge or concern, perhaps they've encountered another client that have gone through the same thing.
Exactly. And you know what? People look at nutrition coaches and trainers like they're perfect. We're not. The reason why we have all these tools and resources and strategies for these roadblocks
Yeah.
and these tough times is because we've been through them. We
Oh,
still
exactly.
go through them. It's not like we navigate through these holidays and we're not thinking, oh, I want some of that turtle, that chocolate turtle over there. Hell, I do. I want it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot out of me. But you know what I
Mhm.
do? I prepare for it. I bring my own homemade turtles.
Exactly.
Outsmarted, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of navigating and figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think when you open up to your clients, you're more approachable as well, rather than come across to say godlike in a sense. The client just says okay, you deal with this every day, and here's what
Yeah.
I do. And after a while, it's you're you're following your regime so closely. It's that you rarely come off of the program. You're getting phenomenal results from it, but the times that you do come off, just say, you know what, that's okay. Here's what I need to do
Exactly.
to get back onto it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very nice. Well, as far as like wrapping things up over here, so what's the best way for our audience to get a hold of you? If you can give us, say, your website address and email and things like that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. So they can get a hold of me over at drew@beelite.ca. They're looking to get a hold of me at Be Elite. They can also get a hold of me at w.classtraining@gmail.com. Okay, and they can find information on my Instagram accounts, either _Drew or
Mhm.
w.class. They can also find the Be Elite website, beelite.ca.
Fantastic. And to our audience out there, I'm also going to have a link in the description box so you can get a hold of Drew, and just in case you missed some of this information. So, I'd like to thank you once again for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to share all the great things that you do, and looking forward to a future interview in the new year.
Thank you, George, for having me. It was awesome. Always enjoy myself.
Thank you. And that wraps up another episode of the Stavro Method, an holistic approach to optimal health and wellness. Stay tuned for our next episode.